Hello everyone, welcome to the last section of SAP security training. In this section we will be discussing about some conclusion about SAP security. First of all, we need to understand SAP security is not only about user and authorization. It is about the entire security of the SAP system, which includes the user management, authorization, of course, from designing till maintaining the authorization, and SAP system, how do we secure the SAP system and maintaining the SAP system, and continuous monitoring of SAP system, and all this related topic what we have seen. So it is very important that we continuously monitor the security of the system on a specific time frame to ensure the system is very secure. And compliance as well as regulation. Each company or each country will follow its own compliance and the regulation policies based on their local laws and security requirement. For example, SOX is a very famous audit compliance requirement in US. This is available in different part of the world, like in Japan it's called JSOX, and this also been used in other part of the world. Using these compliance and regulation policies, we can secure our SAP system. Also like to give you some more additional points. For example, the first topic is the client maintenance and monitoring. As we have seen, the client maintenance is one of the main topic in SAP security. We also sometimes need to monitor whether any client setting was changed during the course of action by a basis consultant or by any other consultant. As you know, we also discuss about the s_develop with change option with activity change, which is almost equal to your SAPOL. Using that one, you can also modify the clients. This client maintenance is very important to monitor in a specific time interval. At least once in a month you need to monitor this client changes. So how do we monitor the client changes? We can go to SCC4. Let's go to our SAP system and check this. You go to SCC4 for our client administration. If you go to utilities and see the change log, if you select the change log, then you can specify the date, from which date to which date you would like to monitor this client changes. For example, I will say 01 for 1 month. Say execute. There is no log found in the selection period. The reason is the system is not enabled for table logging. In order to monitor this specific logging, you need to enable table logging. So if you click the logging display status, if you see, logging is switched off. The table logging is switched off. That's the reason we are not getting the log. And the client's information actually saved in the table T000. This is a very important table. So instead of coming to SCC4 and check the changes here, you can also go to the table T000 and monitor the changes, monitor the change log of this specific table. Let's see what is in this table. Go to transaction code SC16 table browser. If you put the table T000, you got the information actually which is related to our client maintenance. if you see, if you just double click on one of the table entry, this is all coming from our SEC4. This is all the information which we have given. For example, role. If you say P means production, T means test, this is all the information which is coming from SEC4. So it generally logs all the information what we have changed in SEC4 to the table T000. So the table logging is not enabled. That's the reason we do not have the log for the client changes. So once we enable that, then we will have log for the client changes. So it is very important that we monitor all the client changes in a specific interval using SCC4. So what you can do is you can simply go to SCC4 and say change log. You can also schedule this program in background so that in a specific interval then you will run this program, then this program will be automatically run. You can send the spool output to your email ID, for example. So that also a very good idea to monitor this change log. The next topic we would like to discuss about is SU01 backdoors. This is not only for SU01. Since I took SU01 as one of the example here, this SU01 anyway, it's a very critical authorization. We took this as an example because it's easy to understand. There is lot of backdoors available for transaction codes or some reports. The reason why we are talking about backdoors, and sometimes you have a tendency to give some transaction code within range. You may think, okay, if this is starting with this specific range to this specific range, then this is fine. In between what happens, we are not sure. For example, so far what we have seen, the transaction code to create the user is only SU01. So when you run the transaction code, let me go back, SU01, you go to user maintenance. You can also call this SU01 from different transaction code. Let's say SU01 underscore NAV. This brings you to the same SU01 program. If you see the program, this is the program. If you go back, SU01, if you check the program, this is also called the same program. So both the transaction code call the same program. So let's take another example. We have many transactions: OMDL, OMEH, OMWEWF. If you see, these names are not at all relevant to SU01. If you see in SU01 underscore NAV, it is somehow related to SU01. It looks like something to do with SU01. These are all the transaction code. It does not look it is related to user maintenance. If you go to one of the transaction, for example, it takes you to SU01. So you have to be very careful when you are assigning the transaction code to any user. Generally, okay, let's assume that you will not assign these transaction codes to any users, but however, as I mentioned, when you are specifying the range, this may be coming in between some of the range. Let's say, let's try one more transaction. Say it will also take you to SU01. So if you see, SU01 itself, the user maintenance itself, have more than one transaction code. So this is again very important topic. You have to be very specific on the transaction code which you are allowing to the users. And there is also one transaction code which is available for SU01 display. Generally you can also give only display authorization inside SU01. However, there is one more transaction code SU01D. This is for displaying user maintenance. Then you will have only the display icon. The next topic we would like to discuss about program with no authority check. The point which I would like to highlight here, there are quite a lot of programs which does not have authority check. So that is the reason, if you have seen some of the security guides, it is advised that SE38 and SA38 running this program directly in the SAP system should not be given to any end users, because you may not be able to control all the programs which does not have proper authorization check. We have quite a lot of program which does not have proper authorization check. So instead of giving SE38 and SA38 to some users, you may create a transaction code and give it to the user. We also discussed this topic before. You create a customized transaction code and give it to the user to run this program. And SA38 and SE38 should be given to the consultant like users, so that they are sure what is the program which they are going to run it in the productive system. And then the next topic is search custom program for authorization check. This is again related to the first topic. You can search the program whether you have a necessary authorization check. So how do we search the program? If you go to SE38, or let's say we are in the program SU01 now, let's go to the status, and this is the program. If you double click here, and if you click this button find, if you double click, it will come to the code. Otherwise you can directly go to SE38 and put this program, then you can display the code and you search for the keyword authority check. This is the command in ABAP which is used to check the authorization. So search this. We have user base authority check. We will have, okay, this will be generally like this: call function authority check, then you will have the s_t code and the specific object will be specified. Like this you can search the authority check in each program. As I mentioned before, we also have some program which does not have authority checks. I can show you some programs. Let's say C38. Let's say some custom program. For example, this is a custom program. If you go to this custom program, this does not have any authorization check. This is a high risk in the SAP system. So whenever you create any custom program, you have to make sure there is an authorization check implemented in each program, and it is always advisable create a transaction code to run this program and assign to the user. The next topic is early watch support. We also seen the client 066 which is used for early watch. So this is a service which SAP provides, and this early watch report have quite a lot of information like the health of SAP system, what is the database growth, and this kind of information. And this have a specific section which describe the security of the system. So whenever you get the early watch alert, early watch report, take the report and go through this specific security section and you will see some traffic light in the report, red, yellow and green, and make sure that it comes to green. If it is red, they will also, SAP also will describe why it is red, whether there is any parameters missing, what is the risk, and what needs to be changed. So you can follow the steps and you can clear that specific alert. Then you can rerun the early watch report again and make sure it is green. So the early watch report is a very important report. Always go through this early watch report, go to the security and check if there is any security risk identified by SAP. So far what we have seen is the standard SAP securities. Maybe there is a new security policy which is implemented, which we are not aware. We still did not implement the SAP note regarding the security which is published by SAP. Then that kind of information you can still find it from the early watch report. So this early watch report is a very helpful information. Please go through this early watch report and take necessary action and make use of this early watch report. Next topic which we would like to discuss is about emergency user concept. See, this emergency user concept means elevated authorization access. Let's say every super user or a consultant in the SAP system may require more authorization than the normal users. Let's take an example as consultant. This is always a problem for management, how to control this additional authorization or elevated authorization. Can we assign SAPOL to all the consultant to make all the changes to support the customer? It will be a very risky things to do, that you assign all the authorization to all the consultant. If let's say you have many consultants, then it's very risky to assign all this authorization. For this, SAP have a solution from SAP GRC. There is a module called Emergency Access Management. This is called firefighting. In the firefighting, what it does, the GRC tool or the GRC system will have specific user IDs, with the generic user IDs, which the consultant user or the super user can request this user automatically from GRC. Then the system will allow you to log in using this user, and that specific user will have more authorization than the actual user. So they will use this user, get into our SAP system and do the necessary changes, and they will log out from the user. Then the user will be used by somebody else. So this is an emergency access management concept which is used in GRC. However, many people also do this manually. For example, all the consultant will have very minimal authorization. You will not have all authorization. Then you will have one or two users who will have all authorization, which is controlled by the management. So let's say I have an issue, I wanted to modify some changes. Then you will have some kind of registering this particular log. Okay, this is the particular log. Then you will have the user which will be released to one consultant or one support super user to use this user with the password, and once they do the changes, then they will document the changes manually. Once the document is changed, when the issue is resolved or the particular activity is completed, then the user will be logged again, kept it safe, and somebody will review this particular document whether the person requested this user did the right thing or not, using your audit log. This is one manual way of controlling. However, the controlling of manual way is quite a lot of work. We can also use SAP GRC. Also, there is lot of other tools which gives this kind of solution to overcome this elevated authorization required by support consultant or super users. With this, we are coming to the end of this course. Thank you very much for joining this course, and good luck.